So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to my Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra 2 months later experience. I'm going to talk about everything I learned after owning this phone since launch day. Some things about this phone have not really changed from my initial review, but I've learned some things and I have new thoughts about this phone now. Zeus is also going to join us today, basically my desk mat lion. He keeps me motivated along with you guys each and every day to keep coming out here and making these vids. But let's begin with number one. And by the way, I do have the Kind suitcase on here. Usually I use cases, but you just don't see them in the videos often because I don't think they look as aesthetically pleasing when we are trying to showcase the product itself. Also, the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra does not really need a case. It's a really very durable phone, titanium build. It's lightweight, but also strong, so you don't really need one. But I got that for free, and it was thrown in with the pre-order. So that's one of the things I like about the Samsung pre-orders. You can get some pretty nice cases thrown in with the pre-order. So the first thing I want to talk about is battery life with the Galaxy S25 Ultra. It's been great. You know, when you slap a 5,000 milliamp hour battery in a phone like this, you don't really worry too much about getting through your full day. This is not a foldable phone. This is not a phone that has to like make sacrifices to get the battery in there. It's not the ultra thin edge that's coming out, or even, you know, some other thinner phones on the market. And it's not the biggest battery either. Like some of the Chinese phones now have carbon batteries. They're definitely a little bit bigger than this. But Samsung has optimized the phone pretty well, and usually it gets through a full day. It's not the best battery life phone I've used, but battery life is good. It's also not the fastest charging phone either, but it's also not slow. So it's a good package overall. I'm not disappointed with the Galaxy S25 Ultra 2 months later when it comes to battery life, but I will say that I wish after this time using it, it was still better, because I still feel like there's competition that's doing it better than this phone, and you know, it could charge a little faster. Like, this doesn't feel that different from the S24 Ultra, and not drastically different from the S23 Ultra. So this phone, I think it's time Samsung, please update the size of this battery. Let's get a little bit more. This is the Ultra after all. So if we look at some samples here, you can see really great dynamic range, awesome picture here with the clouds, but the zooming is where this thing shines. You can really see a lot of detail even when you start zooming in. So, you know, the Galaxy Fold, for example, doesn't zoom in quite as good for me on my Z Fold 6. So I tend to still like using this phone mostly for its better camera. I wish that they would put the better camera for my Z Fold. That would be better, but overall, just really solid results. As you can see right here, it also did a really good job with the sunset, really capturing the detail in between the different colors of the sky. This is nearly exactly what it looked like. So very, very, and you can even see the detail there in the trees. Like, it picked up that detail pretty well as well. So this is a dreamy looking photo right here, but definitely I'm just very happy overall with this phone for a camera. It is just superb. So yes, this is gonna probably go again in like the best phones of 2025, and it has it. And we're just getting started here in 2025. But that's not everything. There are some cons with this phone. Stay tuned. All right, so let's talk about display. So a lot of people were annoyed with Samsung last year with their display not being as saturated as before. They did go to more of an anti-reflective look, and it definitely doesn't look as saturated as Samsung used to look. However, it's still, to me, it's more accurate and it's more pleasing to use under a long period of time. It's still not as good, I feel like, as even the Z Fold 6 for like watching video, because the saturation on that phone is better than this one. But definitely, if you like a more accurate, you know, thing for editing photos, you know, daily use, you might like this a little bit more. If you're not into the overly vivid colors, you just like a more accurate anti-reflective look, it's good. Also, it's really, really fast when it comes to scrolling as well, because we do have the adaptive refresh. So the phone just kind of like flies through everything, no problem, just like the S24 Ultra. But when you combine that with the 8 Elite chipset, this display just seems to be super smooth and speedy through everything you do. So this is not your Samsung of before. This is your Samsung of 2025. So what that means is that if you're looking for rock solid performance that never really lags, that's going to be this phone. Some people say there are some inconsistencies, and I agree with that, but I haven't found really any major lags or any issues with this since I've gotten it. It just tends to work well each and every day. Now, moving on to software, a couple months later, one thing I'm not digging about the Samsung experience in 2025 is that my S24 Ultra, my other Samsung phones are still on, I have some Samsung phones still on One UI 6.1. Like, why is not, and these phones are only like a year old, the Z Fold 6, Z Flip, these are still on 6.1. I'm like, why are these $1,000 plus phones, and the Z Fold 6 costs more than this, and it's still on the older version? Why are these phones not all on One UI 7? Very fragmented feel. I don't like this. I don't like how these updates come in it's annoying. Like, they're over here promising all these updates in their events and stuff like that, but they're not delivering on that promise quite as well as I would like. Like, for example, why am I on a security patch from February 1st? Bro, it's almost April. Like, I'm not trying to be risking that security. Like, can I have a little bit more security patch like every single month, please? Like, that would be great. This is the March 1st update, so we're at least up to date on the major update, but I should have a security patch for like March, April, every single month. We should have a security patch. So they're coming in kind of late. Not a fan of that. But the software experience itself, I do like One UI 7. It's really quite nice. It's very polished, and this is why I want to see it on all Samsung phones, because you want everything to match up. You want it to be pretty awesome. So Galaxy AI is what I really have been enjoying about this phone, but I'm going to tell you the main features I've been using. Number one is going to be audio eraser. This phone has not only really bassy, good sounding audio when you're taking videos, it can also eliminate the wind noise outdoors, making this one of the most versatile phone cameras in the game for video. You do not even need to take a mic. You don't need a wind muff, nothing like that. You just take the phone, take your video, and be on your way. I love that. Second thing I've been using a lot, and I use this also on iOS with their summarize feature, but summarizations of articles. This is really great. It helps me speed through the content. Don't have to read the entire article or deal with ads. I just kind of like summarize it, and I'm on my way. They have more. The Now Brief is also quite nice. I've been checking this out daily pretty much when I'm using this phone, and it'll give you like your weather. It'll give you some notes that you have. I'm planning to make some tutorials for my second channel. It'll tell you, you can actually customize it to put different news articles and stuff, whatever you want to put in there. That's a pretty cool, neat touch as well. The integration of Gemini on the home key has been nice as well. I like that more than using Bixby, although I'm going to probably put ChatGPT over there soon. Just overall, the software has been fun. Still very customizable though as well. So I still like how I can go up in the theme section and I could download different wallpapers and stuff of that sort. I can go to different icon packs. So it's still one of the most customizable right out the gate phones without having to go into, third-party Play Store apps that potentially have malware. So I like how we have the Galaxy inbuilt customizations. So overall, it's very customizable while being AI packed, while also being quite nice polish day to day. We also do have some advanced features on board as well, so those are all here. But there's still some things about this phone that I don't really love in terms of the software. The main thing is like the software updates like I talked about, but also I don't like how when I go into my vertical app drawer that if I sort it by custom, it's not in alphabetical order in this mode anymore. So like, why is B Brawl Stars all the way over here? Like, we're almost to Z. So that needs to change. Unless I'm not seeing the feature, that needs to change. I'm not a fan of that. But other than that, I don't have too many other issues with it. I still don't think it's the most polished looking in the world, but it's still a very good software overall, and I quite like it. It's been pretty good after 2 months. Now the processor performance, the Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset on here, along with 12 gigabytes of RAM, is the main reason why I keep talking about how this phone has just been phenomenal when it comes to performance. I wish that this phone had 16 gigs of RAM, because most of the competition that competing with this phone are throwing 16 gigs of RAM to give you a reason to buy their phones. Why is Samsung still on 12? Didn't we have 12 on like the past 2 or 3 S Ultras? I could have swore we had 12 gigs of RAM even on the S21 Ultra. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it does. So this one, let's just check Gemini with that one. Does S21 Ultra have 12 GB of RAM? I'm pretty sure it did. Like, come on, yes, I knew it. I knew it had the 12 gigabytes of RAM. Can we please get 16 gigs? This is ridiculous. Like, make some upgrades. You're calling this phone an Ultra. I love it because it's great pretty much all around, but 16 gigs of RAM on all models at all storage tiers, please. Thank you very much. Other than that, blazing fast performance. And people are going to say, well, you don't even need that, bro. What are you doing on your phone? You need 16 gigs of RAM, dude. Look, it doesn't matter about what I'm doing on my phone. It's about, if I'm buying this thing, I want it to last 5 to 7 years. I need more RAM. The software is going to get updated in the future. The RAM is going to make a big difference in how that thing performs with future long-term major updates. So it's important. I love higher RAM. It allows that phone to last longer in terms of performance. It's one of the reasons why the Pixel 9 Pro XL, while it's not the fastest CPU, still performs well because it has a lot of RAM. So more than this one. So I do want to see that upgrade in the future. Let's talk about the design. 2 months later, when it comes to design, I've been enjoying the flat sides. It makes this phone so much easier to hold, and it's much lighter. However, I do think that its non-pointy corners like the S24 Ultra, it kind of doesn't look as like unique. It kind of just looks like a rectangular phone. It still has its boxy, iconic Note or Ultra looking look, but it's just a little bit more bland to me. At the same time, the design is still very premium, feels quite nice, and overall, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. The integration of the S Pen is great. Still has a SIM card slot. It's just a clean phone. There's just nothing else to say. 2 months later, it hasn't been an issue, and it has, even though it's like much lighter, it's still a big phone, so I don't think you're getting this phone and getting some lightweight small phone. You're getting a lightweight big phone. If you use this next to like a 16 Pro Max though, this thing feels lighter and more manageable. That's great. And if you use next to some older Ultras, it feels much lighter than those. So if you're used to these kind of big phones, you're gonna like the reduction in weight for carrying it. But if you're the type of person who likes that heavier, hefty feeling phone because you think that feels more quality, you might not prefer this one. All in all, though, this is playing at the top of the game in terms of the build, and I do think that it's beating some of the competition for sure. So this is probably going to it's going to be hard to beat this phone. This might be phone of the year again. We'll have to see what happens with Apple later this year because they kind of played it safe here. So I do think there is a chance for some competitors to outshine them this year. But for now, they're still playing at the very top and not really being beat. One of the things I liked about this phone as well is that it didn't really get too hot. It has really good thermal management. Although it's not quite as great performing as a gaming phone like an ROG phone, maybe one of those Red Magic phones. In terms of like throttling, this one might be a little bit worse. Those are gaming phones, dedicated cooling and stuff like that. That's what they focus on. But for a flagship phone, this outperforms in the thermals to me, my 16 Pro Max, which is what I'm in my brain comparing it to, as well as the Pixel 9 Pro XL. So I'm enjoying how this phone handles the heat. It doesn't really get my hand hot, even when I'm not using a case. Case only adds to that. But of course, if you're charging this with a horrible charger that's not designed for the phone and you're playing a game, you might feel some heat because it's not designed for this phone. So yeah, it can get warm, but doesn't tend to get that warm at all, really. It performs excellent even under heavy use. 2 months later, and I've discussed on this before, is my 5G performance has been better. For some reason, I get better data strength on here pretty much all the time than my iPhone as well as my Pixel phone. So if you care about really good, reliable GPS, really good, reliable phone calls, and great data speeds, as long as you're with a good carrier, you are going to have really, really strong performance in this area. It's one of the reasons why it's a default choice here in the US, this phone, because of such great data performance. And that's not only true on this, that also holds true for the other S25s as well. Now, one of the things I really like about Samsung is that they give you usually a deal on your storage when you do pre-orders, and even later on in the year, throughout the year, they'd be throwing in these storage deals. This is a big deal because you don't want to get a phone like from a competitor that's giving you 128 gigs at the same price as a 512 gig. Like, come on. You're getting 4 times the storage and it's going to last much longer. So that's just great, especially if you don't want to manage all this storage. But when you do manage the storage, the file system on this phone is just fantastic. It feels more like a Windows laptop when you are managing your files, and it's just much easier to transfer things on here than, say an iPhone, for example, unless you're doing AirDrop between Apple products. That's pretty smooth as well. But we also have quick sharing options like that if you're within the Samsung ecosystem. So the sharing of files is great, but the storage deals that come for this phone, usually throughout the year periodically, it's been good. I got 512 gigs for the price of $256 when I pre-ordered this. So again, that's a good thumbs up. It would be amazing to see a 1 terabyte deal though. Now the audio sounds great. That's the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL. It comes in at less than both of these phones. So it does. This phone just has really good sounding audio that comes out the speakers. It's crispy, it's loud. But just like my other years of using Samsung, one of the reasons why I continue to enjoy these phones is the Dolby Atmos mode that they've included on these phones for years. It has an auto optimizing mode that can give you difference between movie, music, and voice, which essentially auto optimizes the audio so that, like, when I'm hearing a movie, it kind of has a richer movie-like sound, and then when I'm hearing voice, it sounds a little bit more clear to the ear. So you actually can notice if this phone is off, if this mode is off, this phone kind of doesn't sound as good as what it on. So this is one of the things I always first turn on when I get Samsung phones is the Dolby Atmos feature. Now the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, what I love about this phone is that it's in the perfect location and it works flawlessly. Like, look at that. Every time you hit it, like, it's in. It doesn't matter. Well, okay, there you go. You want to treat my life now. But if you hit it in the right location, it's in pretty much every time. So I've enjoyed that. The face unlock is also pretty quick as well. But yeah, the ultrasonic on this phone is in the right location, easy to set up, and also works phenomenal. However, some people might find something like Face ID more convenient, as if you do get your hands too dirty or greasy, this might become inoperable, which is a little bit annoying. But then you could still use Face Unlock, but that doesn't unlock banking apps and stuff like that because it's not as secure of a method as the ultrasonic for that type of use. So you're going to have to use a fingerprint on this phone for things like banking apps and stuff of that sort. Now, when it comes to gaming on this phone, I gotta say, I really like the flat edges right here. It makes it really easy to grip this phone. Also, with those reduced bezels, you're gonna see that it's just really a good experience to go ahead and play some games on here. Also, the graphics are obviously gonna perform very well, so you're not gonna have no issues with that on this phone. So I find the gaming to be definitely one of the best experiences on a phone here. So let's conclude it here. From a value perspective, are we getting one of the best values out there? Not really. It's very high priced, but when you start including incentives and trade-ins, it becomes a much easier cop than a lot of other phones. They give you instant discounts provided you have a good trade-in. I do think you are paying a big price, but you are getting pretty much everything in a phone. So you're not really sacrificing. So to me, it's still a good phone overall. It's a great phone, actually. It's one of the best, if not the best so far this year. But one of the things that over the past 2 months I can't stop thinking about is that Samsung could have done more. That's how I feel right now. 2 months later, I just feel like they could have done more. They could have made the cameras even better. Like, they slightly improved them. They put some log, they put some AI features, but they didn't really reinvent the wheel. They didn't make a bigger battery. They did reinvent kind of like the way it feels, but they could have just did more. Bigger battery, totally new design. That's like the Samsung way, but lately they've been kind of playing it the Safesung way, if you get what I'm saying. Pretty safe. And while that's important, because people don't want to change up their phone drastically, they don't want to like alienate some customers, the truth is that I do think that I would be very, very interested to see them start getting back to where they were really pushing the boundaries with these devices. I know we're at the point where it's so mature, but honestly, they could have made this phone even better than they did, but they didn't. They kind of just made it an S24 Ultra a little bit better. Could have been way better, but it wasn't. So overall, that's how I feel so far, but that doesn't make it a bad phone. You've seen I still love it overall, so still a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts about the S25 Ultra after 2 months. If you've owned it since launch day, let us know how you feel. Again, great phone. But I'd like to know how you think about it. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well. And peace.